Welcome to this explainer. Take a second and really think about how exhausted you feel at the end of a typical week, right? And I'm not talking about that physical tiredness from running errands or even the mental fatigue from staring at a screen all day. No, I'm talking about a deep, structural exhaustion that just seems to constantly hum in the background of modern life. So, where on earth does that come from? Well, today we're completely bypassing those surface level productivity hacks to explore the true philosophical and biological roots of human exhaustion. We're looking at the hidden engine that is literally driving everything you do. Okay, let's dive right into this. There's a concept that says we are all descendants of the god to want. Just think about what that actually means for a second. From the exact second we enter this world, our primary operating system is online. Way before we can walk, way before we can speak, we already know exactly how to want. Just look at a crying newborn. They aren't just making noise, right? They are micro-level proof that our biology is literally wired from birth to demand. That crying is a torrent of needs, mostly just basic survival stuff, screaming to be satisfied. So wanting isn't just some bad habit we pick up along the way, it's our foundational code. And to really wrap our heads around this, we need to completely redefine a word we use all the time: survival. We usually think of survival as just, not dying, right? But biologically speaking, survival is actually a deeply anxious mechanism. It's a system that's constantly preparing for harm in advance. It is terrified of the exact moment a desire isn't met, because if a need goes unfulfilled, our very existence is suddenly endangered. So to soothe this built-in anxiety, our system demands an active energy surplus. Which brings us directly to the biological cost of our own incredible complexity. Now, yes, every single atom you're made of is already bursting with energy, but to organize those atoms into a breathing, walking, thinking human being, that coordination requires a massive, continuous energy deficit. Honestly, it's exhausting just holding our atoms together. Your system is quite literally always in the red. And because we humans have the highest biophysical complexity of absolutely any creature, our deficit is the largest. This dynamic is exactly what makes humans the greatest consumers in all of nature. We're just driven by this relentless wanting. Now, let's zoom out from our biological cells to the vast cosmos for a second, because it turns out this intimate bodily need for energy perfectly mirrors the grand laws of physics. Einstein brilliantly showed us that everything in the entire universe is fundamentally a conversion into energy. So, this wanting we feel constantly, it isn't just a quirky human trait. It is our localized biological participation in the universe's grand economy. And when we translate this up to human history, civilization basically becomes a giant stage where this god to want plays out. Look at the massive ideological and economic movements throughout history. When Karl Marx wrote about the eternal struggle between classes, well, from a purely thermodynamic perspective, that's really a struggle for the control of energy. Or when Friedrich Nietzsche described the will to power, we can view that neutrally as a philosophical manifestation of this exact same wanting. It's the human need to secure an energy surplus that actually drives the sweeping, massive movements of our societies. Moving on to part 2, the two forms of energy. And this brilliantly illustrates how, while we're all constantly chasing energy, we aren't just chasing one single thing. Humans actually seek out two distinct types of energy. On one side, we have our material or concrete needs, the air, food, and water we obviously require. But on the exact same plane, we have immaterial, metaphysical needs, things like belonging, care, love, and empathy. And the profound difficulty of the human experience is that these two planes aren't separate at all. They constantly intertwine. An emotional deficit in belonging can trigger the exact same systemic alarms in your body as a physical deficit in food. So if this underlying system of wanting has been with us since the absolute dawn of humanity, well, it begs a very important question. Why does it feel so uniquely heavy right now? Why are we so incredibly exhausted today? The answer lies in how modern life has basically hijacked our basic survival mechanism. We are living through an intense, unprecedented acceleration of wanting. Today, needs are forcibly generated. You are bombarded with false needs, things your biology absolutely doesn't require, but your environment insists you simply must have. We're trapped in this cycle of continuous imposed standards, constant comparisons just to sustain a global consumption engine. And because of this, the energy we so desperately accumulate becomes a harmful, totally useless surplus. Survival isn't even the goal anymore. Wanting has just become this artificial engine, revving way out of control, wearing down the exact person it was originally meant to keep alive. Think of it this way. We have essentially become like a star. Imagine a sun that has artificially hastened its own fusion process.
Because of this accelerated production of energy and desire, we are consuming ourselves from the inside toward the outside, just so much faster than nature ever intended. This acceleration, it's become our normality, but it is deeply destructive. We are burning our fuel at a catastrophic rate, and the tragedy is we're confusing the heat of our own burnout for the warmth of being alive.
And if we don't recognize what's happening here, we risk what's called the total implosion of the self. Think about the steps here. First, we take this god of wanting, which is inherently infinite, and we let it operate unchecked inside a finite human life. Second, we use it to cover ourselves entirely, identifying completely with all our desires. Third, because these infinite quantities are literally unattainable, we begin to implode. And finally, instead of growing, we tear our own being apart from the inside out.
So the crucial point is really understanding your own limitations. I want you to imagine a beautiful but finite vessel. That vessel is you. That is your body, your time, your emotional capacity. What happens if you try to tear a limited form by filling it to the absolute brim with something completely unlimited and formless? The vessel shatters. True infinity shouldn't be something we desperately try to cram inside ourselves. It should be about looking at the horizon, enjoying the healthy, contemplative admiration of things that remain far away, rather than feeling this violent, constant need to own them.
Which brings us to a final, provocative thought for you to carry forward today. Look at your own life. Look at your own burnout. Are you tearing your finite vessel with infinite desires? Are you letting the god to want burn you out from the inside? Or are you finally ready to stem the limitless wanting? Take a step back and simply admire the horizon. The choice of what you let consume you is entirely yours. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this gives you a brand new lens to understand your own energy.